And hello, everyone, and welcome to Get a Grip with Coach Elex. This is your host, Coach Elex, and I'm I'm listening to some background music.
That's me singing.
Is it really? Well, we're gonna just keep dancing with what we got. But I'm your host, Coach Elex, and with me, the one and only
Stefan the Medium.
Steven the Medium. You changed your name now to Stefan?
Well, I was named after my grandfather, who was Stephen Stefan. Sometimes you heard him called Stephen, sometimes you heard him called Stefan, so I just figured I'd change it up a little bit.
Yes. Well, Steven, welcome to the
Thank
show,
you.
as always. And Steven, today's show is about holiday anxiety. Stress less, celebrate more. What do you think about that?
I think that every single person in the world should be listening,
I know, including myself, because
including all of us, every
including,
person.
including all of us, because I tell you, when I think of the holiday, I love the holidays, Steven. Don't get me wrong, you know that. And we're crazy about the holidays and about decorating. But the moment I start thinking about everything that we got to do and everything that's going on and all of the, the whether it's gifts, parties, get together, and then this year, just like we did last year, you had COVID. Should we do this? Can we go here? Can we do that? It becomes super, super stressful. Is that the same for you?
Yeah, I guess in a different way. I mean, throughout the holiday, you know that I'm always on you about stop stressing about this or that. It gets done when it gets done. So, I think I think we just, like everybody else, we just stress differently.
Yes, because I need to know when everything's going to be done, how everything's going to be done, and who's going to be in charge of what, and you're more happy-go-lucky in many ways.
Yes.
I guess that's the yin and the yang. But before we get into all of that stuff, tell me what's going on with you.
Well, there's just a lot. I mean, just breathing and living is a great thing. And coming off such an amazing Thanksgiving with you and me and the two, I almost had three dogs. A monkey must be with us, but it was such a great Thanksgiving. And, from now until the end of the year, it goes by fast, but I'm looking forward to New York next weekend. I cannot wait. And as I mentioned in my lives and on my last show, that the documentary that I am part of is coming out the beginning of next year. February, it's going to distributors. In April, it is going to be shown in two different places in Cape Cod, which I don't know yet where. So that's really, really exciting. And I'm in the works for something that is very, very big. So it's been crazy, but good crazy.
Yeah, and I can't wait to be able to share more with our listeners what's going on, because a lot of the people who follow us are on standby waiting for an announcement as to what's going on. But all we can say is that it's pretty awesome.
Oh, I'm pregnant. No?
Well, that would be pretty interesting. I I'd be making we'd be making a lot of money if that was the case. Jim, you may need another whole new show if that's the case. So get ready. I don't know, but anyway. So no, but it's really a lot of really good things. What else are you
Yeah.
up to, Stephen?
Well, besides very, very busy with readings, and even though juvenile court is still slow, court has really been hit hard with COVID, even up until now. And we're just starting in juvenile court to have more hearings in person, and I'm not really even sure that's going to continue based on this, new variant. So who knows? So it's just everything is going well. No complaints.
And for a lot of people, that new variant, it's probably adding a lot to the holiday anxiety. So, um, for me, I want to share with people that we spent last week decorating in our home, and it looks absolutely stunning, if I may say so myself.
You may.
Yeah. How many trees do we have?
8. Well,
Soon to be
nine,
nine.
including your mother's
Yeah.
downstairs.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had 5 and we added 3.
Yeah, because we love Christmas, and I told Stephen, I said we should have a tree in every room in our house, so no matter where we are, we can just
And we do.
and we do. So on one hand, today's show is going to be about holiday anxiety and all the things that make my mind go crazy when I start thinking about the holidays. And then on the other hand, we decided to put a tree in every room of the house, so that we can be reminded of the holiday craziness. But we're going to do a live, right?
Yeah, we have to. Yes.
So hopefully, maybe even this weekend, Stephen. I don't know, but we should do a live sooner than later.
Yes, because in a blink of an eye, it's Christmas, then it's New Year's, and so it goes by fast. But for us, for people that probably know, some of them know how crazy we are with the holidays, but we really, both of us, go into like a little bit of a depression, like a little sadness, a lot sadness when we have to take the decorations down.
Well, yes. I mean that is. I guess that's also part of the anxiety for me, because all I can think of is, oh my God, there's so much we got to take down. I have to organize everything perfectly.
But Elix, let me just say that you say you have to organize everything perfectly. In 2019, when you had back surgery in December, and of course it wasn't a big issue when it came into 2020, because the longer the Christmas stuff up was, the longer it was just it just made us feel so good. And when Elix obviously couldn't do anything, bending and stuff after his back surgery, so I took the initiative to clean everything up, and I have to say I think I did a wonderful job.
Well, you would say that. What you're not telling people is that I wish we could have cameras so that you guys could see my expression at the moment, because when he says he cleaned everything up, he did. He put everything in the basement, and it was chaotic to walk in and out of our home through the basement, and it was one of the most. I cannot begin to tell you how long it took me to reorganize the chaos that he created by, in his words, cleaning everything up. So, okay, so if that's what you call cleaning everything up, okay, well.
Well, in the main floor and second floor, it was all cleaned up. It was in the basement. I didn't throw it. I just put them, in bins, but they were, whichever, Elix is like, I don't know, in the guru, the expert guru in packing. You really are. I don't know. If you look at things on a bed and they're going into a suitcase, you would look at both and say, there's no way you can get that all in that suitcase. But he can. It's the most organized person. That's probably part of, speaking of this subject, is probably so much, fuels your anxiety, because like everything is perfect. Everything's organized.
Well, yeah, I do things for a reason. I mean, even when you say you put things in the bins, oh my God, like you threw everything was overflowing. In order for me to clean all that stuff, I literally had to take everything out of every bin and reorganize everything again.
Well, do you remember when I started coming down the stairs after an hour or so, and you very adamantly yelled, "Do not come down here."
Yes, I remember that like it was yesterday. So let me just tell you, I do not ever want a repeat of that. ever because it was so freaking stressful. But having said that, we love the holidays and we have plenty to talk about. But I think we may be about to take a break. So let's do that. Let's take a break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about holiday anxiety, stress less, celebrate more. And as always, if you want to call us, you can always do so. 508-222-1320. We'll be right back. And hello, everyone, and welcome back to Get a Grip with Coach Elex. I am your host, Coach Elex, and with me
Is Stephen the medium.
Steven, the medium, is in the house. And today we are talking about holiday anxiety, stress less, celebrate more. And I'll be honest with you guys, this is a conversation that I probably need to listen to it myself because even as I'm talking about the holidays, I can feel my stress and anxiety levels rise because that is something that that I sort of feel. But I'm not the only one. There are some pretty important statistics. There's about 45% of Americans that actually say that they would prefer to skip Christmas. And this is a survey from Think Finance. And it was actually reported on NBC News. Now, I'm not one of that 45% because I would never want to skip Christmas, right? And Stephen, I know for sure you are not one of those included in that statistics.
No, I wish we could have Christmas every quarter. Seriously.
That is true. But But that statistic is very telling. Nearly half, percent of nearly 50%, 45% of Americans would prefer to skip Christmas due to the levels of anxiety and stress that the holidays bring. A quarter of Americans reported feeling extreme stress during November and December. And that's a poll by the American Psychological Association. About 70% reported being stressed by the feeling of having lack of time during the holidays. And I can certainly relate to that because I often start thinking about people that invite you to gatherings, people that you want to have over your home. How are we going to do that? How are we possibly, were we going to make the time to do that? So I relate to the time thing. However, this one, 69% are stressed by perceiving a lack of money. And this is a big one. I think this is a major a source of stress and anxiety for many of us, American and otherwise. What would you say about that one, Stephen?
About the financial piece?
Yeah, the lack of money, the perception of not having enough money to buy presents and.
Yeah, I mean, I would think that would be, if not number one, that is just the effect of anxiety, I would imagine.
Yeah, and then the next statistic, it's 51% are stressed out. This is somewhat related to that perception of lack of money because they're stressed out about the pressure to give or the pressure to get gifts for other people. And I think I sort of learned to overcome that because I used to find myself in that category. Like I used to feel like, oh my God, I have to get, for this one, for that one, for the other one. And I decided, I mean, I'm looking at it from a different perspective. I love giving. So I look at from the perspective of acknowledging people. But I also know that to have somebody feel acknowledged, you don't need to buy them, a diamond from Tiffany's. I mean, you excluded, of course. What do you think about that one, Stephen?
No, I completely agree. But I think that it still hits people so hard.
Mm-hmm.
The financial end, that is.
Yeah, of course. So what do you think, Stephen, those statistics, right? And those are some pretty high numbers. I mean, 45% of Americans would prefer to skip Christmas. And then a quarter of American, and within that quarter, 70% of that quarter reporting lack of time, 69 of that quarter reporting lack of money, and 51 reported pressure to give or get gifts. What do you think those statistics tell us about our coping mechanisms when it comes to handling holiday stress?
Well, there's very little coping. I'm actually surprised at the percent. I would never have guessed it was that high. Just not what I just would not have.
Yeah, and I think for me in particular, what it tells me is that often our focus is on the wrong, not necessarily the right focus. Like we're to focus on the giving because you have to, or the giving because it has to be a expensive gift, or it has to be this or that. I don't know necessarily that. I mean, I've learned that that's not really what the holidays are about, right?
Right.
So, so why has holiday stress and anxiety become such a widespread problem? And if you and think about it that way, these studies were done before COVID. So you add COVID, and the disruption of COVID and the stress that some people feel about the pandemic and what can I do? What should we do? Yesterday you and I were watching this news reporter, this doctor talk about, if you're, she said she doesn't recommend that if you are invited to a party indoors and there's people that are not vaccinated, that you shouldn't attend that party.
Right. Yeah.
So that can add a lot of, some another dimension of stress to what may already be very stressful situation for many of us. What do you think, Stephen?
What do you mean? What's the question?
Well, the question is like how, why do you think the stress and anxiety has become such a widespread problem, and how do you think COVID, right, which is it's almost like an added dimension to stress and anxiety. Stress and anxiety over holidays has existed for years, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, I would also say that the COVID piece, which just like you said, is just like the icing on the cake, especially because it's not just about dealing with COVID and, like you just said, those statistics. Listening to that doctor yesterday, as we're approaching gatherings and get-togethers and holidays, and everybody wants to be with their loved ones or their people they work with, whatever. But then you throw in the mix of the people that lost people through COVID, and now it's the holidays also. So I mean, it's just if it wasn't anxiety ridden enough, now just throw in COVID, and there's people that are afraid still to go out. There's still there's just so many elements of COVID on top of what you just said was I mean, I'd be curious to know whether that percent that you just read is pre-COVID or post-COVID.
No, I'm pretty sure this is pre-COVID. These were studies that were done before COVID. So COVID was not even a consideration, because it's not listed as one of the sources. I think if it was pro-COVID, this would have been listed as one of the sources. But I'm sure COVID has added an additional factor to stress and anxiety.
Yeah.
And again, when you think about factors contributing to holiday stress and anxiety, of course, there's the perhaps the number one, financial pressure, right?
Right.
And again, people not having enough or perceiving that they don't have enough, shopping decisions and deadlines, people who wait till the last minute. Now that you could argue that that's just, you're creating that stress for yourself. But, for me, I can tell you, I don't necessarily feel I have a lot of time every day during the week when I am engaged with clients and businesses to go shopping, and start the shopping process now. I mean, if you do, and that's something that you can do, good for you. I feel like amazed by people who start early. I know people who start at the beginning of the year. I'm certainly not one of them. Perhaps because I don't have an interest in shopping at the beginning of the year for Christmas, but most importantly, I don't really feel I have an abundance of time to just go shopping, during the week. I don't know about you, Stephen.
No, and I think also right now we're in this age that shopping is so simple, because you can just go online and purchase something via Amazon or whatever you want. But I think there's also, depending on where you are age-wise, there's still people that fight that and, want to have that, like myself. I'm sure, Elix, you also, like, all those years of going into the store, and even though you have to battle the traffic and it's a pain, it's still part of the holiday. So I don't know.
Well, but also, I mean, even though, yes, Amazon has made it super convenient to buy, but there's also, again, going back to COVID and the factor of COVID, there's the supply and demand issue. There are many things that you could order, but they're not going to be available for a certain period of time, or there are things that are not available, or I know my cousin from Puerto Rico was recently going to send us a package, and she received a notification that the post office is super delayed and packages are getting way delayed. So there's almost like all secondary factors that may add further to that stress and anxiety that we feel. The other factor, and I certainly relate to this, attending holiday parties. And you and I have had a conversation. Who's going to the party? Are they vaccinated? Is the party indoors? Are they tested? I mean, those are questions that years ago nobody would ask. But we're asking that today. And there are people who literally are not comfortable attending a holiday party. But if it's a business party, they may feel that they may feel like they need to show up, that pressure to show up for that party.
Well,
Um,
I think also, Elix, not to interrupt, it's the other side of the spectrum. Also, the people that don't believe this virus is a virus or is serious, and it's just very nonchalant coming too. So, it's just all over the spectrum.
Exactly. So that yet is yet another factor that adds to that stress of anxiety. Then, of course, you get the media, the commercializing of the holidays. You watch TV and you see those beautiful commercials, and you feel like, oh my God, I gotta go to the mall. I gotta buy for this one. I gotta buy for the other one. I gotta buy that present. I gotta buy this. And again, it sounds really great, but it can definitely be a factor that adds to stress and anxiety. The other big one, Stephen, is strained family relations. You know, when you have strained family relations, the holidays immediately become a source of stress. How are we going to deal with that? Are we going to go to that party? Are we going to see them? You know, and the list goes on and on and on. But you know what also goes on? The fact that we need to take a break. So let's do that, Stephen. And we'll be right back. And hello, everyone, and welcome to Get a Grip with Coach Elix. I am your host, Coach Elix, and with me, my co host and wonderful husband.
Is Stephen the medium?
Oh, we're back to Stephen. We started with Stefan, and we are now back to Stephen. And Stephen and I are having a wonderful conversation about stress and anxiety over the holidays and how to stress less and celebrate more. And we were just talking about key factors contributing to holiday stress. The other factor, Stephen, and again, this has been amplified by COVID, is travel. You know, personally, and this is something I've shared with Stephen often, I travel during any time brings a lot of anxiety for me. I don't know why. I used to travel often for business, but these days I have tremendous anxiety when it comes to travel. I hate the idea of having to go to the airport, having to go through TSA, having to wait, to walk into the plane. The whole thing stresses me out to no end. And then when it becomes to holiday travel, I think, there's almost like added stress and anxiety. How many people are going to how many people are traveling? Are the flights going to be canceled? Are we going to get to our destination? Stephen and I, we have plans to go to Puerto Rico, and we received notification that our travel was changed. We had no option, and that was a source of stress because we needed to now make sure that we could make that new travel because the airline just simply changed the time and the seats, mind you. So, anything else about travel, Stephen?
Yeah, I mean, I think what you said is right, Elix. That I think it's a lot about just not having control. When you're going traveling, you just don't know. Once you're on that plane, you have no idea if it's going to be delayed, if it's going to be on time, if it's going to have to, be diverted or like whatever. It's crazy.
Yes. And then, of course, this one is, I think this is a major one, and this one starts with Thanksgiving, the stress of surrounding overeating and gaining weight. And having a feast in Thanksgiving doesn't help. Stephen and I, because we had a feast for just the two of us and our two dogs. But that's a real source of stress and anxiety for many people. Many of us overeat. And we also know many of us gain weight. So we do need to have a plan in motion to make sure we exercise to sort of balance some of that as well. Then there's the expectation, that pressure to please family and friends or to have that perfect holiday party or whatever or gathering. Now that one, I think I'm getting better at letting go of. Would you say that it's so, Stephen?
Yes.
Yeah,
Definitely a progression.
I'm not perfect because I'm still super anal about details, but I think there was a time where I needed to have the perfect tree. And you would remind me of that quite often. And I'm sort of letting go of that.
No, you've done well. I mean, yeah, it's as I mentioned to you, it can, when you get that focused, it takes the whole point of, getting into the season, for me anyway, is just, to be together, to get to decorate, but also to have fun. And if, this has to be certain place, no, that doesn't look good there, it's got to go there, then, no, seriously, then the fun is taken out.
Yeah. I totally agree. And I think it becomes a source of stress for me, because I have to have that perfect, setting, and then for you because it takes the fun away of the actual celebration.
Right.
And then there's this one. This is something that you, I'm sure, deal with a lot of your clients, the increased vulnerability of recent personal losses, deaths, losing a loved ones during the holidays or before the holidays, and having been the first time that you're with that loved one. What would you tell people about that, Stephen?
Well, for me, it's a little bit different because I'm going into a reading with the understanding that prior to I started reading, I'm already chatting with the person I'm reading's loved ones in spirit. So, and it's just a constant like parade of the conversation I have with spirit is just love. It's just so positive. There's none of this stress, anxiety, anger, bitterness, guilt. None of it. So I'm in a really fortunate position because every single day that I do readings, that's where I'm at. I mean, I'm always, it never stops. It's all positive. So my perspective's a little bit different. I mean, I still experience the crying of when I'm doing readings, because people miss their loved ones, or if their loved ones are giving them specific messages about letting, like, say, a guilt or a burden to go, so that part of it is very emotional. But I think I'm just in a different place when like, I think what you're just reading is just a little bit different from my perspective.
Yeah, and there's also other personal losses. There's divorce, there's breakups, and those are also, they add to that, feeling vulnerable during the holidays, which is also another key factor in stress and anxiety. And then their increased feeling of loneliness, of course. Now, this one, I will tell you, in conversations that I have with my clients. Now, I'm not a mental health provider. I'm not a psychologist or a psychiatrist. I am a coach. So the work that I do, doesn't, I don't treat people for any kind of mental illness. But I will tell you, I've learned a whole lot about anxiety, and people that deal with anxiety. And I can tell you that the holidays, their anxiety, in their significant anxiety, it's amplified times 1,000. And one of the things that I have learned is that they often feel so dismissed by the general public because, they, again, most people do not recognize that, that the feeling of stress and anxiety that we feel, compared to somebody who deals with anxiety in their daily lives, in significant anxiety, that it's amplified times 1,000. So it's sort of have, we have to be mindful of that and be empathetic of that, and sort of like listen to connect to their world, not what we think, that world would look like. What would you say about that, Stephen?
Yeah, I mean, when I'm just thinking of when I do readings, it's just, again, for me, it's an interesting perspective because I'm reminded by spirit what whoever I'm reading is going through. So it's something, again, that I'm fortunate to be privy to, but it's also been such a learning experience for me to understand that, because, again, your loved ones are coming through with just giving whatever they can to make you in a better place, and to be happier and to live a better life. So it's certainly, for me, it's been a learning experience.
Yeah. So we've talked about, the factors, key factors that cause stress and anxiety. And what we need to talk about is what are some of the practical tips to relieve that holiday stress and anxiety. And I came across this article by the Mayo Clinic, and I think it has really a wonderful list of practical tips. But what we're going to do is we're going to take a break so that we come back, we go through all of these tips, and without interruption. So let's take a break and we'll be right back. And hello, everyone, and welcome back to Get a Grip with Coach Elix. I am your host, Coach Elix, and with me, my wonderful co-host,
Tony, the medium.
oh my God, Stephen the medium is in the house. He happened to be my wonderful husband as well. We're talking about holiday anxiety, stressing less, celebrating more, and we talked about significant key factors that contribute to stress and anxiety over the holidays, including, COVID and what that whole new disruption that we have been confronted with over the past couple of years. So now I want to turn the focus into what are some practical tips to relieve holiday stress and anxiety. And I came across this article published by Mayo Clinic, and I thought it gives you 10 wonderful tips. And so I want to use this as an opportunity to share those with you. The first one is to acknowledge your feelings. And Stephen, you talked about, people who are coping with recent deaths, for the loved ones. One of the things that I think it's really important is to acknowledge, how they feel, to let people know how they feel. You don't need to pretend that you're okay because it's the holiday season. I think it's better to actually acknowledge that you're feeling sad. It's better to acknowledge that you don't feel up to doing whatever and that you're just embracing the sadness. Your grief. What would you say, Stephen?
Well, I think everybody does that. Well, not everybody, but I think a majority of people, even regardless of what they're going through, and they see somebody, how you doing? Yeah, I'm okay. That's just what people do all the time, and it's like you said, Elix. I think it's important to bring up acknowledging really how you feel.
Yeah, it's okay to embrace your feelings. It's okay to embrace sadness. It's okay to embrace your grief. It's okay to embrace, the concern, even the anxiety or the stress that you feel. It is okay. Acknowledge your feelings. Number 2, reach out. If you feel lonely or isolated, reach out to others. Reach out to people that can be supportive, whether it's a religious organization, it could be a friend, it could be the community. There's all kinds of outlets out there that are designed to support each other. I can tell you, and I talk to Stephen about this all the time. If there is even a client of mine who is, feeling lonely or they don't have anyone to celebrate the holidays with, I would be the first one to say to Stephen, can we have them over so that, they could become part of our family so that they don't have that feeling of loneliness or isolation during this time. Anything you say about that, Stephen?
No, that they get also a discounted fee, so they're paying a little bit to come, and because we're going to make some money on it, right?
No, the invitation. There is nothing expected with that invitation.
Well, you actually said, like, I don't know, like 2 weeks ago, or we talked about somebody, and you said to me, nobody should be by themselves on Thanksgiving.
No, I feel very strongly about that. Yeah. Nobody should be by themselves. Right. So make sure you reach out to people and reach for support. Do not isolate yourself in stress, anxiety, and loneliness. This is the next one I think it's an important one. Be realistic. The holidays do not have to be perfect. So, as families change and grow, so do traditions and rituals as well. And again, you and I have had this conversation. You come from a family of traditions and rituals, and often we have to be flexible. It doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't have to look the same. That doesn't mean that you don't honor that tradition or that ritual. It may look like you honor it in a different way. Right, Stephen?
I completely agree.
Set aside differences. So I, again, when you hold this is a big one. When you hold resentment, it's again resentment. It's like you taking poison, expecting somebody else to die. It doesn't serve you. It actually doesn't serve you. So you gotta let go of that. So I would say put aside those differences and just embrace. That doesn't mean that you gotta, now all of a sudden love everyone, or you gotta, let go of, something that hurt you or something that didn't work for you. It just simply means not holding on to that negative feeling, because when you hold on to that, especially during the holidays, it just doesn't serve you. It doesn't serve any of us. What would you say about that, Stephen?
I think for many people that's a hard one. And I think though once you're able to resolve that, it's just your life is so much better.
Yeah, and again, resolving it doesn't mean you got to become best friends with somebody. It just means you're letting go of the resentment. You're letting go of the make wrong, and because again, when you hold on to those feelings, they're hurting you more than they're hurting that other person. Number 5 is stick to a budget. Do not go spending like crazy because you feel that your presents need to be the bigger and the best presents. In fact, I often say that some of the best presents are presents that come from the heart. That's yet another thing that I find myself, I've transformed, my expectations over the year. I mean, Stephen asks me every year, what do you want for Christmas? And what's my response every year?
Nothing.
Nothing. I actually don't. I legitimately do not need anything. I am happy just to be with Stephen. I am happy just to have the life that I have. And, he always gives me presents, but I am not looking for, the most expensive present or something that's got, and I do that with our friends too. What do you want? Actually, nothing. Come with nothing. Just come with yourself. So I think that's an important one. I think we add unnecessary levels of stress and anxiety when we think that we have to spend all this money to make somebody else happy. I recently, we know how we often say money, brings happiness. Actually, it's never that way. Money doesn't bring happiness. Happiness will bring you the money that you want in your life, but you got to be happy first. That's the source of everything that we do. Then plan ahead. Set aside specific days for shopping, baking, connecting with friends and other relatives. I'm a planner, so this for me comes, it's a natural way of thinking. But also being a planner can also be a source of stress and anxiety. So just again, be realistic with what it is that you want to do, with what you think you need to do, and don't add unnecessary stress because you feel you need to do for everyone, for all, everything. I don't know if that makes sense to you, Stephen.
Yeah, and the planning, I think, for each individual is different. Some people, when they hear planning or they do plan everything, it's almost like an itinerary. And others, they plan things way differently, that it looks more spontaneous, but it's still planned in their head. So.
Yeah. The next one I think is one of my favorite ones. This was a difficult one for me, but I think I'm getting better at practicing learning to say no. It's okay to say no. You don't have to say yes all the time. In fact, you're on top of me all the, how often do you correct me, Stephen? Hey, Elex, you don't have to say yes. I have that tendency that I want to make everyone happy. So I'm a yes, 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 yes. But unfortunately, being yes, 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 yes can lead to being resentful, to feeling overwhelmed, to magnifying that stress and anxiety, in particular over the holidays. So it's okay to say, thank you for the invitation, but no, I will not be able to make that party. You can still send them a nice thank you note. You can still send them a nice gift if you feel you need to do that. but it's okay to say no. The next one talks about the anxiety that we feel when we overeat and we gain weight. Do not abandon healthy habits. So what does that mean? Try to, eat healthy most of the days if you know you're going to a holiday party and you're going to indulge. Exercise. Sleep, plan your sleep. I mean, that's another one that I've learned to take very seriously the past several years. I now, in the past, Stephen, was I not considered a night owl?
Yes.
And now I no longer do that. I now, by 11 p.m., I'm in bed. And Stephen and I have now a practice that we go to bed together. And that allows me to really get the sleep that I need. And I also exercise routinely. I do not miss my exercise routine. That's very healthy. Stephen and I go walking. We do our nature walks. We do running. We meditate, or if you do yoga. So these are healthy habits that you want to be intentional about. Take a breather. Make some time for yourself. I would say, for us, when we do those walks, those are breathers for us. When we do meditations, those are breathers for us. But it doesn't have to be any of that. It can just be simply taking 5 minutes of quiet time without distractions to just sort of, reset yourself. So take a breather. And the last one, and in particular, this one, I got reminded when I speak to some of my friends who do have severe anxiety disorders. Seek professional help if you need it. Sometimes despite the best effort that you make, you may find yourself feeling persistently sad, anxious, stressed, irritable, hopeless. Make sure that if that is the case, you seek a professional that can help you in coping with that level of stress, whatever that is, whatever is triggering that for you. So I think these are some pretty awesome tips, Stephen, that anyone could take on. And you don't need to take all of them. You can just, know the ones that will make the biggest difference for you and focus on practicing that. So what would be your last piece of advice for our listeners today to help them deal with their stress and anxiety during the holidays, Stephen?
I think just taking a step back, taking a couple of deep breaths, and really focusing on what you're grateful for. And I think just doing that will at least 50% put you in a different perspective and help with the anxiety and stress.
I agree. And you know what? We've talked so many times about gratitude. And once again, gratitude comes into play. Gratitude is perhaps the key to having everything that you want in your life the way you want it. So I think that's wonderful, Stephen, to really, take a moment and just be grateful for life and all the blessings that we have. So I think we come to the end of the show. Stephen, how can people find you?
Stephen the Medium. Everywhere.
Stephen the Medium, everywhere. Instagram, Facebook. For me, you can find me at Coach Elix. And if you are listening to the show for the first time and you want to listen to all of my shows, you can find my show. It's a Turn podcast available in YouTube, Audible, Spotify, Apple, you name it. Wherever podcasts are available, you can find Coach Helix. So just look me and connect with me at Coach Helix. And that's the end of our show. Thank you all for listening. It's marvelous to have this wonderful opportunity to be with all of you. I am not going to be here next week because Stephen and I will be in New York City, but we will be back with our bells on the following week.
No comment.
No comment. With that said, have a great day, everyone. Have a great weekend. See you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.